My name's Alex Gallagher, and I'm a student in Paul Anthony's Philosophy 100 class here at the University of Kentucky. I'm a freshman. I'm really excited to get to be with you today and share some ideas and insights I've explored over the past semester. In this presentation, I'll be diving into a range of philosophical concepts, some of which might challenge the way we see ourselves, our experiences, and the world that revolves around us. Whether you're already familiar with philosophy or completely new to it, I hope to offer something interesting and thought provoking. So, with that being said, let's get started today. All right? So, to begin, welcome to my presentation again. This is my final project, basically my final for my class here. Today I'm going to explore three major thinkers: René Descartes, Immanuel Kant, and Martin Heidegger. So they shape our understanding of knowledge, lived experiences, and what it means to be a human. These three are foundational in shaping how we think about existence, the mind, and our connection to the world. So we'll move through their philosophies using five core texts from our class, including Descartes' Discourse on Method and Meditations on First Philosophy, Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and Heidegger's Introduction to Philosophy and Introduction to the Phenomenology of Religion. We'll look at how these ideas have evolved, what they reveal about being human, and how they affect our sense of embodiment and disconnection or connection with the world around us. So, diving into a little bit of the overview of my project. Here's a roadmap of where we're going. So first, we'll dive into each philosopher and the main points from their assigned texts. Then we'll think about how their philosophies relate to the idea of lived experience, something that I've talked a lot about in this class with my peers, at my tables, in my reflection assignments, in our readings, in our class discussions throughout the past 4 months of the semester. Finally, we'll draw connections to other thinkers we studied this semester and see how René Descartes, Immanuel Kant, and Martin Heidegger fit into the bigger picture of philosophy. So without further explanation, let's get started with René Descartes. Alright, so René Descartes begins by doubting everything. In his text, Discourse on Method, he introduces a strategy of radical doubt, not to be skeptical for the sake of being skeptical or the sake of it, but to strip away all assumptions until we find something that's absolutely pinpoint certain in our lives that we know is definitely true. That certainty comes in the form of the statement, one of his most famous statements for him and all of philosophy as a whole is that I think, therefore I am. He realizes that even if he doubts everything else, the very act of doubting proves his existence as a thinking thing. This leads to a dualistic view of the self, a mind separate from the body and from the external world. In Meditations on First Philosophy, another text which we dove into in my class by Descartes, he expands on this by arguing for the existence of God and the soul. Again, from doubt and using reason alone. His focus is entirely on the mind, while the body is secondary. We can almost think of it as our mind being a primary source of knowledge and being what you are, while the body is a secondary source, meaning it's not as important as the first source. This creates a disembodied view of the human being, where thinking is primary to the body, where thinking is primary and the body, the senses, and the world are unreliable, or you could say less essential. In my personal view, I don't really agree with that, but you can take away with whatever you want from this video. Now let's go into Immanuel Kant. He is trying to bridge the gap between rationalism, like Descartes, and empiricism, which emphasizes our sensory experiences. So In Critique of Pure Reason, another text by Kant that we used in this class, he argues that our mind isn't just a passive receiver of information, but it actively shapes our experience. Kant says that we don't experience the world directly. Instead, we experience phenomena, which is the world as it appears to us through space, time, and categories like casuality and quantity. The thing in itself, or nomenon, which remains unknowable. The thing about a phenomenon is that it can be known, it can be unknown, but sometimes you may not know, which ties it all into philosophy with the root of it, nomenon, which remains unknowable. Well, we don't know. Another thing that ties into this class as a whole, in my opinion. So, while Kant brings us closer to the world than Descartes does, acknowledging the importance of sensory input, he still maintains a distance. Our knowledge is shaped and even limited by the human perspective. This is a turning point in philosophy. Kant recognizes the limits of what we can know, but he also affirms that we can still build a rational understanding of the world, just not the world as it truly is, but as it truly appears. On with Heidegger, so being in the world. Martin Heidegger turns the entire tradition of philosophy right back on its head. In a great text that I read in this class, Introduction to Philosophy, he begins with the question of being, not thinking, not knowing, but being itself. For Heidegger, we are not detached subjects looking at the world. We are Dasein, which means being there. In other words, we are always already in the world, involved in it, and living in it. Heidegger critiques the subject-object divide that Descartes made so foundational, yet he wants to challenge it and give us a different revolutionary form of thinking. In Introduction to the Phenomenology of Religion, another great text that I read in this class, he extends this to how we experience things like faith and meaning, not as doctrines that we think about, but as feelings and practices that we live through. Heidegger's whole approach centers on lived experience, and for him, philosophy begins not in the mind, but in our everyday experience of being alive, embodied, and our relationship with others and, the world itself, which gives a great perspective on how unique a human's life is and all the different realities and unique experiences and family members and friends. It all kind of ties into one. Anyways, from the mind to embodiment. These three different philosophers mark a progression in how we think about human existence. Descartes begins with a mind removed from the world. His philosophy leads to a kind of alienation. We are thinking things trapped in our heads. Kant moves toward the world by acknowledging that experience does matter. But he keeps us at a distance, almost by saying we can only know appearances. He gives us categories and systems, but not the thing in itself. Heidegger rejects this detachment, and for him, we are fully embedded in the world. Embodiment isn't just relevant, but essential. His philosophy insists on returning to life as we live it. Excuse my voice. Sorry about that. This movement, though, from mind to world, is also a movement from isolation, being self-centered, to connection, being with others, not just within ourselves. From abstraction to experience. I think that's really great. Moving on, the question of humanity. So, all in all, what does it mean to be human? Each philosopher definitely offers a very different answer. Here, Descartes says that we are thinking things. Our body is rooted in reason, not the body or the world. This is powerful, but it also disconnects us from the messy, emotional, and body parts of being alive. Kant builds on this by framing us as rational agents, moral beings who can use reason to act ethically. It's a noble view, but again, it centers the mind primarily. Yeah. Heidegger, although on the other hand, sees humanity as grounded in being in the world. We're relational, emotional, and contextual beings. We're highly intelligent. And we're scary. We don't just think. We dwell, we struggle, we care. Not about ourselves, about others. Hopefully, if you're not like a weirdo. But yeah, this is a much more holistic and embodied view of what it means to become human, in my opinion. Excuse me, to be human, in my opinion, not become. Because if we just sat, if we just sat in a box forever and didn't get up, didn't meet people, didn't do a job, didn't do anything, but we still had our brains and we're thinking, it just doesn't make sense. But when we go out in the world and experience ourselves, all the world's feedback becomes who we are as a person. That is how I would frame it. Now, next up. So, coming home to ourselves. This brings us to a key question, perhaps the heart of the whole exploration. Do these philosophies help us come home to ourselves, grounding us in deeper understanding of who we are and how we live? Or do they create a kind of existential dissonance, pulling us away almost from the immediacy of life? So Descartes' philosophy, while it's definitely undeniably foundational, often begins with doubt and ends with isolation. His method on radical skepticism urges us to mistrust our senses, our bodies, and even the external world. In seeking certainty, Descartes narrows our experience to the mind alone, turning inward, away from lived reality. The result is a philosophy that prioritizes thought, but struggles to connect us with the richness of embodied life. Kant, on the other hand, he tries to bridge this gap. He builds a system where the mind actively shapes experience through categories and intuitions, offering a structured way of making sense of the world. But even in this, the thing in itself, quote unquote, remains out of reach. We are forever interpreting the world, never directly knowing it. Kant gives us a framework, but not a home necessarily. His philosophy connects the mind to the world, but still holds the world at a distance. And finally, there comes Heidegger. So, my boy. His approach shifts everything. For Heidegger, we aren't minds trapped in bodies, but we are beings already embedded in the world, shaped by time, language, relationships, you name it. He doesn't ask us to escape experience and or reconstruct it intellectually. Instead, he calls us to embrace it. To Heidegger, we are always already being in the world, and philosophy's task is not to withdraw from life, but to return to it more fully. You know, in this way, Heidegger offers something profoundly different: a homecoming, a realization that we don't need to build a bridge back into existence, but we're already standing on it. We just need to wake up to that fact. So while Descartes and Kant definitely offer powerful ways of thinking, I believe that it's Heidegger who most fully invites us back into being and back into ourselves. Additionally, the connection to other thinkers, these ideas echo across the other thinkers we studied this semester. For instance, Plato and Descartes both put reason on a pedestal. Plato's forms and Descartes' clear and distinct ideas both suggest that truth lies beyond the senses. Aristotle, however, values practical wisdom, or phronesis, which is grounded in action, context, and embodied life. That connects him more to Heidegger, I would say. And next up, Bertrand Russell continues the tradition of skepticism and analysis. His philosophy is more aligned with Kant's concern for logical structure and clarity. Gotanda and Velleman bring these ideas into the modern day. Gotanda critiques how race and law shape lived identity, which connects directly to Heidegger's view of being shaped by our world. Velleman takes Kantian ideas in his works of Kantian ethics, another text written by Velleman, about autonomy, but reframes them in terms of embodied human identity. Now, some of my final thoughts. So, what's the takeaway? Is that philosophy isn't just about abstract thinking, or at least I don't think it should be. It's about understanding ourselves in the real, embodied, and lived way through our experiences. Descartes gave us clarity and precision, but he may have pulled us away from the body. Kant taught us that experience has structure, but that structure does come to a cost. The world itself remains distant. Heidegger calls us back, and he says, stop escaping into thought, return to the world, be who you are and where you are in the world. In that sense, philosophy becomes something grounding, something that helps us to come home to ourselves. So, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my presentation, everyone. Really hope you took your time to engage with these ideas. Philosophy can sometimes feel abstract and disconnected from everyday life, but I hope that this helped show how deeply it connects to the way we think, we live, and understand ourselves and others. Whether it's questioning what it means to be human, thinking critically about identity, or simply becoming more aware of the world around us, philosophy has a real and lasting impact. If you have any questions, thoughts, or just want to talk more about anything I covered, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below in my YouTube video. Like the video, subscribe, who knows. I'd love to hear your perspective. And one last thank you to my teacher, Paul Anthony, who will definitely be watching this, for an awesome semester in Philosophy 100. And as for everyone else watching, and Paul Anthony, take care and keep thinking critically.